Welcome everybody to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I'm here with Donald and Rob, and we are going to be getting into our top five pick of who we want as free agents when baseball resumes. And before we get into that discussion, we do want to acknowledge and congratulate Paul O'Neill on the announcement of his number being retired in August. So his number 21 will be retired on August 21st, which I think is awesome. I think it's very strategic for the Yankees. So I just want to thank Paul for all the heart and soul he put into that clubhouse and on the field, and how he carried himself as a Yankee, always being professional, and it's well deserved. All right, so for our top five, all right, so these are going to be free agents that are currently available, not ones that were already signed that we would have hoped to have had, but actually and realistic holes that could be filled.
So how do we do this? Do we do this like we all choose our first one each?
Yeah, like when we did it with the tradables, we'll just go around the table of 1 through 5.
Go around the
table. So, Rob, you want to kick off number 1 this time?
Sure, I'll take the first one here. My first guy, which is probably my stopgap choice, would be Jonathan Villar, the all-around infielder, switch hitter. Just played for the Mets last year, had a good season. I think he'd be a perfect fit here. If they go the route of stopgap, you get him for a year, maybe 2 tops. You're getting a decent hitter, a guy who can play all over the infield except for first, I believe, and then he can play the corner outfielders in a pinch if he needed it to. And you wouldn't have to lock him into a starting role, so you wouldn't have to move a guy like Urshela or Torres just to fit him on the roster. He could end up playing every day, just at a different position. He's very versatile, and he could certainly help in terms of getting more versatility to this roster, and pretty much would have that, I guess, the Tyler Wade role, but will be used a lot more and be a lot more reliable than Tyler Wade was. I think I've liked Villar for a while. That's the route we choose. Go stopgap, short-term contract. He'd be, in my opinion, a perfect fit.
Yeah, no, and I think I think that's actually a reasonable, a good play to start the list with, because we were trying to figure out, what do you do with Torres? What do you do with, with the developments of Volpe and Peraza? So it does fill that void where you still have, you have the versatility in the infield, like you said, and you're not really tying yourself up long term, and it gives you options to spend bigger on other areas of need. I like that pick. Donald, you're number 1.
My number 1 is, drum roll please, Freddie Freeman. Now, I got some good news here for people that are interested in the hot stove. There's growing belief amongst baseball circles that Freddie Freeman will not be re-signed by the Atlanta Braves. He will be available to be gotten as soon as the lockout ends. This is the dream scenario for the New York Yankees. He's exactly what we need. Bats 300, 30-plus home runs. His WAR is 4.5. He's at the moment, he's the best free agent available in terms of WAR. He's what you need, man. I know he's 31, but 6 years, get it done, as far as I'm concerned. Steal him away from the Braves. He's a winner. He's a great defender. Bats from the left side, bats over 300, and hits 30-plus home runs. He's everything that you could possibly want. And if we get that guy, then I'm excited. Now I'm back on board. Now I'm saying, okay, this team's legit. This team's ready to go. So my first signing would be Freddie Freeman. Just get in there. As soon as that lockout ends, get it done. Bang. What do you need? Do it. All right? Then you lock him up. Then we make a statement. And now it takes the pressure off the other positions, because if you've got a real power bat at first base that you can combine with Judge, combine with Stanton, then there's not that much of a need to go power at shortstop. It would be nice, but it's not that much of a need. So that's my first move, Freddie Freeman, number 1.
Yeah, we actually broke down the the idea of Freeman coming to the Yankees a couple weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, go check out that episode. And really, he does fit very well into what the Yankees need as far as offense and defensive metrics, being very above plus. And, lefty bat would do very well, especially at first base. We always said, lefty first baseman do have an edge over the right-handers. We saw that last year with Rizzo and, comparing Rizzo and Voit. And, Freeman, definitely. You can't go wrong with Freeman. But it also, with my number one, I actually have Anthony Rizzo for first base. And I think he and Freeman are both fairly, they're very equal. It's one of those, the Yankees can't go wrong if they get either one of them for first base.
How are they equal?
Well, you still have, you have solid, you still have phenomenal, good defense. The lefty bat, good offense. So I think that you can't go wrong with either one of those two first basemen. And I gave Rizzo the edge on this list because he was here last year and we saw the impact he had in the clubhouse. The way he turned, the way he made all the defensive mishaps look better, look less because of the way he could scoop the ball, which we hadn't seen since Teixeira. So I gave Rizzo the edge just because he's been here. He's comfortable. He wanted to be here. He wants to come back. He talked very highly of the short time that he was here. So I gave him the edge over Freeman just because we already know he's going to be comfortable. We already know he can handle New York. So that's why I gave Rizzo a little edge over Freeman, but you can't go wrong with either one. Rob, you want number two?
I'm on the same wavelength as you. I got Anthony Rizzo as well. I love Freeman. I don't care about what that report said. Buster Olney hasn't been very reliable lately. I still don't see Freeman leaving Atlanta. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be with the Braves. If he comes here, great. I would not complain one bit. There's, like you said, no. I think if they go to spend big at first base, they're going to end up with Rizzo because it's not because they won't pursue Freeman, because I don't see Freeman going anywhere else. I think he's a Brave for life. Rizzo, he did fine here last year. You saw the entire infield improve with him. Well, maybe not Glaber, but you saw the rest of the infield just look better with him over there at first base, and you could put him anywhere in the lineup. He does what this lineup needs, is something Donald's pointed out so much with his two-strike approach. You don't get that from a lot of, basically, I don't know, like six of the guys that are on a lineup don't really do what he does when there's two strikes in the count. So he's just a perfect fit here, as well would be Freeman. So I would just lean towards Rizzo. I think he'd be for less years, and I think he'd be a little bit cheaper, and it allows you to spend elsewhere, put some more money into other positions.
All right, Donald, you're number two.
Number two, Seiya Suzuki, outfielder, Hiroshima. So that's my pick because we need an outfielder. Now, he now trends mostly towards the corner outfield, but we could move Gallo to center, Judge to center. Judge super fine at center field last year. I think you could even do a situation where Suzuki, you could try him out at center field and pair him up with Esteban Florial. But that is in absence of us trading, because what I prefer to do, I'd trade Gallo, and then I would make a deal for Marte, Ketel Marte from Arizona, put him in center field, and make Suzuki our left fielder. That's what I would do. But if we don't do that, I would still sign Suzuki and still make it work. Suzuki, his stats are unbelievable. He had a career high 38 home runs with a .319 batting average last year. He has more walks than strikeouts, 263 to 241. 91 home runs in his last 390 games. He plays very solid defense, played decent Gold Glove and in Japan. And he's going to be a power guy that's going to hit for average. He's going to draw walks. He's everything that you could possibly want. Again, for what you're looking for, what I'm looking for in a bat. I'm looking for power, high average, walks, doesn't strike out. That's kind of what that's kind of dream scenario. So I would spend over the odds. All you need to do is just get the posting fee done. I would do that, get Suzuki in there, and now you're pairing Suzuki with Freddie Freeman. Then your offense is now much more contact based. Now there's contact. Now there's power. There's walks. And there's leadership. It's kind of the kind of stuff that you're really looking for, that I'm looking for anyway, in rebuilding this offense. So Suzuki is my second choice.
That's actually a good choice, and he wasn't even so. I didn't even think about him until you said it. We talked about him once before when he was being put on, up for being posted, but yeah, you're right. He does fill all those gaps with the, as far as, with the Yankees don't have enough contact hitters. It's either they're striking out, they're walking, or they're hitting a home run. There's nothing in between to keep the line moving. And yeah, you're killing it with your first two picks as far as with having contact. My second chip pick is not as attractive as yours. But I have Rob Brantley as a catcher. And I have Rob Brantley just so we still don't know what's going to happen. We know Sanchez is going to be here. And I went with Brantley because I did not have Sanchez on my trade list. And not knowing what you're going to have out of Sanchez, you can never have enough depth to catch it. Especially while we're waiting for some of the younger guys to progress. So I went with Brantley, just because we might need, I'm hoping we don't, but we might need that depth in that catcher's role with Higgy. And so I think signing a third catcher would be very important. All right, Rob, you're number 3.
I'm on the same path as Donald here. Seiya Suzuki, bring him in. He is great. If you're looking for a very good player that won't cost you as much as a premium free agent would at his position. If he had the stats in the major leagues and hit free agency, he'd be looking at a pretty hefty contract. You could probably get him for a lot cheaper. If it gets Aaron Hicks out of an everyday role, I think it's a slam dunk signing right there. So, or if a baseball pun home run signing, he'd be a great fit here. And you can maneuver the outfield. He can play left. He can play right. I'm sure he can play center. He's athletic enough. Gallo could play center if need be. We know Judge could. And it would keep Aaron Hicks in a more on the bench, but can play every so often. So he doesn't have to play every day, which means he doesn't miss, 75% of the season, which is a plus. So
it's funny you mentioned Aaron Hicks. I forgot Aaron Hicks existed, bro. I actually thought that he was just a figment of my imagination. I'm pretty sure he's just a ball boy at this stage. But yeah, you're right. Apparently he's on the roster. I mean, listen, I still think he's our mascot. But yeah, you're right, man.
He's here, and he's gonna be here unless the Yankees find a trade partner for him. But I would put Suzuki in this lineup because if you make the move for Rizzo or Freeman and you get Suzuki here, I mean, that is 2 massive improvements to this lineup. And then again, you could just go at that point, shortstop's just a stopgap, and you're looking for defense there. And everything's been improved that you need to improve: the outfield, the first base position, and shortstop. And then you can live with the issues at catcher, if everything else, if 8 of your 9 positions in the lineup are pretty much solidified, you can live with one of those positions being the not so good one. So, Suzuki was an easy choice.
Yeah, no, you can't go wrong with with Suzuki. And it really is. It's a shame on me for not even thinking about it. As him, that's a big L on my part. So I'll take it. For my number 3, I had Trevor Story, and I have him over Correa because I don't, knowing how the Yankees operate, they're not going to keep, especially we don't, Judge is going to get paid like we talked about. And you don't know, there's so many question marks with the prospects of who's available, who's going to be moved, that I would prefer having, somebody like Story over Correa, for the reason of you can get, everybody's going to be so focused on Correa, you can get Trevor Story at a very team-friendly contract, like what we have with Hicks, where it could be a movable contract. Because you're not going to be, it's not going to be, you might have the years, but not the annual salary. That's going to be a lot lower than Correa. So even if you have to give, even if Story wants 6 years, it'll still be a tradable contract as the prospects develop with Volpe. And I think that would really suit the Yankees, because the reality is, as much as everybody wants to sign, it's the Yankees, just open the checkbook. They're not going to have $1 billion payroll. They're not going to have, every position is not going to be, 30 million plus a year. That's not realistic. As much as in our fantasy world, we prefer it to be. So I think Trevor Story financially for the Yankees is the better route to go. And if the players are not developing the way that we expect, you still have a value, a shortstop that can play the position. It's not like you're holding on to Torres for the prospects. You're bringing in somebody that can play the position.
Okay, so my third option, I'm going to go with shortstop. Now, if we go down the route of signing Freddie Freeman and then Suzuki, I don't see us then getting Trevor Story. Trevor Story, I would choose as the best shortstop on the market, even ahead of Correa for what we're looking for, because Correa is going to look for a massive contract over a long term. I think we're going to want to go with our young prospects at short, since that's the one position that we're stocked in the minors. So I would go the stopgap route. So in absence of Trevor Story, I'm going to go stopgap, and I'm going to go with Jose Iglesias. Now he is another contact guy. You'll see my trend here. He's a high contact guy, about 356 last year for Boston, and he more than earned his a role next year if Boston chose to re-sign him. But I think he still plays a very solid, at times elite defense at shortstop. He's a high contact, low strikeout, no home run kind of guy, and that's fine. If you have him near the bottom of the order, high contact guy that can give you very good defense, I'm more than content with that. Then we could look at pairing that with maybe a utility guy. Now, Rob mentioned Villar is obviously a jack of all trades type from the Mets. Yeah. That's not a bad option. I liked where Rob was going with that, because I was looking at him too. But he doesn't really play elite defense anywhere. He just kind of plays okay defense everywhere. And that's fine. I think you could probably have that as a utility guy. Iglesias, I would have as my choice, though, as shortstop. And then we could even make a trade for, say, Falafel, the guy from the Rangers, as a utility backup until our guys are ready. I think they'll be up sooner than we think. So I really don't think the Yankees are going to invest massive years in a contract of shortstop with what we have coming through in the next year or so. So I'm going to go with Iglesias as my third free agent.
All right, Rob, number 4.
Carlos Rodon, starting pitcher, formerly of the Chicago White Sox. He's coming off of a fantastic season, his best year of his career, 2.37 ERA. He'd be a number 2 starter immediately right behind Garrett Cole, and it allows you to ease Severino back into that rotation, because asking him right now to come in as your number 2 is a pretty tall task when he's had 2 straight years or 3 straight years of injuries. So I think Rodon, who's had some injuries before in his career, he came back from it last year and was fine. It was a fantastic year, and he won't demand a huge contract. He won't get Garrett Cole money. He'll probably get a decent deal, maybe 5 years at the minimum. But I think if you're looking to solidify your rotation, we know you need pitching when it comes to the postseason. And if the Yankees want to survive past a wild card game, you need as much pitching as possible. We know we have the offense. The pitching was fine last year too, but there's a lot of concerns on that rotation, even with Garrett Cole there. Because Garrett Cole, we saw, had some hiccups last year. A lot of it was because of the injuries and the sticky stuff, but you really need that number 2 behind him. And the top 3 of Cole, Rodon, Severino is something that would sign a lot of fans up to thinking we could take anybody in a series because of who we have going to start the first 3 games. And then you supplant that with Montgomery and Tyone at the end of the rotation. I mean, that's one of the best starting rotation. 5. Yeah, that's one of the best starting 5s we've had in a while. Assuming that Montgomery's at the same pace as last year, and Tyone, you don't really put too much pressure on him at all. Just he's coming back from an injury last year again. So you got to spend, and I think because they were going to give money to Verlander, that tells me they're willing to spend for a starting pitcher, and Rodon's at this point the top of that list with everybody else that's signed.
Donald, your 4?
My 4th is going to be Andrew Chafin, the sheriff, the reliever, left-handed reliever. ERA was 183 and WAR of 2.9, career WAR of 6.5, career ERA of 3.30. Andrew Chafin has had successful careers at the Diamondbacks, Cubs, the Athletics. He is a perfect setup man. And he's also kind of an under-the-radar reliever because other teams will probably go for the bigger names that are still available. The Yankees don't need to do that because we've got some good arms in relief. We've got Loizaga, who I think should be the closer. If you have Andrew Chafin just behind him in a setup role, and I'm not even counting Chapman, hopefully we move him. Even if we don't, even if he's the closer, you got Loizaga as a setup man, and Chafin should be the second setup man because 183 ERA. He's a very good pitcher for a very solid career, high WAR. He'd be a really good addition to the Yankee bullpen, which really needs quality arms, quality additions. So Andrew, the sheriff, Chafin.
Yeah, when I was looking at the list of all the free agents, and you look at all the relievers that are available, and it was like, holy cow! It was almost like 3 pages long. There's a lot of relievers on the market. So I had a hard time just narrowing it down to one, but the one you picked is solid. I would definitely welcome him into that roster. You put him in that bullpen with those names, that's just a win. And we haven't had really a good lockdown, 7, 8, 9 for a while.
Plus, he's only 31, so you'll have as a reliever, you'll have a number of years in him.
Yeah, no, there's still a lot of life on that arm. Relievers you get a lot longer than you would a starter. My number 4 I actually have for center field is Kevin Pillar, and I have him serviceable outfielder. You get him on a short term, a little extra depth, not knowing what Hicks's health is going to be, if he's going to, we all want him traded. And it gives, again, it's a serviceable stopgap while we wait to see what a lot of these, these core prospects, mostly, Dominguez, gives them time, there's less pressure to bring them up right away. It gives you an extra year or 2 to let them really develop. And that's, as Donald was leaning more towards contact, I'm leaning more towards how can we still preserve our prospects that, we think are going to be the next, the next, 3.0 baby bombers. So I'd rather, I want to hold on, like Rob, I want to hold on to some of these prospects, and see what we can get. You got to build a team from within because teams, the Yankees are not spending money. They're going to be going more internal than external when it comes to their roster.
But which prospects would like any of my or Rob's choices stop from coming through? Because we both basically have a stopgap at shortstop to allow their prospects to come through at short.
I'm saying no. I want to bring in a short-term, another short-term outfielder that will give Dominguez more time.
But Dominguez is not due to come up in another at least 2 years anyway.
No.
He's on the same path as Volpe. I see what you're saying though, because if you get Pilar here for maybe a year, let's just say for 1 year, then you're still, you're keeping the same outfield. Gallo will be gone next year as well, and Dominguez will probably be 2 years the least. He'll be up. He's going to be a fast riser, but I get what you're saying. I didn't even know he was a free agent. I thought he was still with Toronto. That shows how out of the loop I am.
I'd rather have the depth in the position and let the prospects let these kids develop a little more. Yeah, we know that Dominguez and Volpe are still a couple 2-3 years away, but you also have you still have Florial, so you don't want to clog up the outfield with big with the superstars, because you still want to I'm still hoping that Stanton gets plenty of time on the field. If you have somebody that can be a utility outfielder, it gives you an option to have Stanton, Gallo, and Judge get days where they don't have to play. You can give them rest days without really handcuffing your defense. So that's why I went with Kevin Pillar. All right, Rob, your final pick.
I'll just give you one final thought on what you said. We all know if they go for a short-term deal, who it's going to be. It ain't going to be Gardner. It's going to be Gardner. That's who it's going to be. It'll be
He likes
Brett
to be
Gardner.
better than Pilar, really, to be honest. But
It would be Mr. Never Goes Away, Lynn's favorite, Brett freaking Gardner. Anyway, the top of my list, bring him here. I don't care who we have in the farm system. Give me Carlos freaking Correa. I want the best shortstop on the market. I don't care what he did in Houston. That's over with. He is the best player you could sign right now. He plays elite defense. He hits the ball well. He is a winner. Okay. I know he cheated, but he has also been to more World Series than we have in the last, 2 years? So, yeah, give me Carlos Correa. I think it's simple. If the Yankees want to be the Yankees, you get look, that's an evil empire move right there, right? You want to be the empire again. You want the Yankees to be the Yankees. We never cared about what he did in the past. We brought in guys. We brought in guys like Sheffield and Alex Rodriguez. People didn't like them. Yankees said, screw it. They're good players. We want them. We brought in former Red Sox who we hated. Everyone hated Johnny Damon. You signed him. Who cares? Give me Carlos Correa. If you want to improve this team right away, there it is. Carlos Correa.
Controversy here, everybody. Listen, I actually agree with you in the fact that no one cares. Winning is the great deodorant. If he turns up and he hits the cover off the ball and plays great defense and wins us games and leads us to a division win, maybe even a championship run, it'll be quickly forgotten. I mean, A-Rod was not popular when he came here, and now he's beloved because he won a championship in 2009, despite all the stuff that happened in the past with him. Johnny Damon, as you say, was hated. Randy Johnson was not popular. Bunch of guys were not popular. The Yankees brought him in, and as long as you win, it's kind of forgotten about pretty quick. So I agree with you in that regard. My one question is, how would you do this regarding Volpe? Would you move him to third? Would you move him to second? Is he even translatable to those positions?
I've been saying I would trade him. I had him on my trade list. You can get so much for him right now. I still think the best route is to sign a shortstop like Correa or Story and then move Volpe for Brian Reynolds. that checks off two major boxes right away, and you get two elite players. Because look, I've said it before, I love Volpe, and I'm a prospect guy. So best case scenario for someone like me is, yeah, him, Peraza, Arias, and Sweeney make up an infield 5 years down the line. But we want to win right now. And Anthony Volpe had one really, really good year in Class A. So you don't know if that's going to keep getting better and better. Yeah, it's nice to see him climb up the prospect ranks, because he was like right outside or at the very end of the top 100. Now he's really up there. But this is the time where his value is through the roof. And you start a deal with Pittsburgh for him for a guy like Brian Reynolds. And I just think it makes too much sense, but the Yankees don't operate that way. This is more just me pretending like I'm a GM. We saw it a couple of years ago. Oh, trade Garcia, his value's up, and then we didn't do it. And
dude, you'd be as popular as Aaron Boone if you managed to pull off a deal where we lose our number one prospect and then sign Correa. They hated transfers, so that would be. That's
I think a lot more
balls,
people.
Man, that's risky. It's risky.
I think a lot more,
but it's risky.
No, a lot more people would be on board with Rob. I really do think so. If it's the right move for the, if you're going to sign Correa and then move Volpe for Reynolds, that would probably be the only guy I would move him for. Or maybe Mackenzie Gore might be another one I would put. On one of those. There's not a lot of players that you would give up your top guy for. Brian Reynolds is at the top of that list.
He's an elite player. If you're trading a top prospect, you want to know what you're getting back, and that's why I think right now, if you're going to trade top guys, you got to get a superstar back. And that goes for Matt Olson as well. I wouldn't trade Volpe for Olson because it's only 2 years, but Reynolds has like 4 years of control or something like that. We know Pittsburgh ain't winning anything anytime soon, even with him. So if they don't want to spend the money for him in arbitration, we know the Yankees could afford it. It's a team. It's perfect for the Yankees because you get a really good player under arbitration rules, whatever those might be. And you can put the money into a guy like Correa or Story. And guess what? You might win this year and next year and the year after. You can win. Here's a scenario I'll propose to you guys. If this fantasy thing that I just said happened, right? We get Correa, we trade Volpe plus to get Reynolds. And in the next 3 years, the Yankees win a championship and we at least go to a second World Series. And Anthony Volpe comes up and has a really good start to his career with Pittsburgh. Would you trade off on that? Because we get a championship and potentially a second. Who knows what happens in that second World Series, but would you trade off for that? Because we want to win, right?
Yeah, I guess, you got to, especially if it all comes down, if the ball starts rolling with signing Correa, you've already sold yourself to the devil anyway. So might as well just go, just jump right into the flames altogether.
That's the best point you made all night, man. I completely agree. If you do that, then you might as well go all in.
All right, Donald, you're 5.
Carlos Rodon. I'm actually with Rob on that. Now, he has got injury history, but he's by far the best starting pitcher available on the market. His ERA was excellent last year. Very good pitcher last year. I think it would be I wouldn't go any more than 1 year plus a team option, really. If he wanted to, I wouldn't go much more than 2 years plus a team option because of his injury history. Now, he is young. He's 29, so he probably won't agree to sign for a 1 year deal. But if you did try and work out a contract where it was like a really high annual salary over 1 year, proven deal to prove that he's healthy, then I think you do it. You have to be aware of his injury concerns, but we've made that risk before. I know our rotation is littered with guys with arm problems, but he's too good, and he's the best available starting pitcher. So unless we traded one of our 3 top shortstop prospects for a rotation arm, the best move that we could possibly do would be to go and get Rodon in free agency, I would say, and slot him in there behind Garrett Cole. and Severino. That would be a very strong rotation. If healthy, it's pure fire. So
Yeah.
I'm with Rob on that. It was a good choice, Rob.
And my number 5, Carlos Rondon. And so
Oh, we're all in agreement.
yeah.
Get it done,
Like you
Cash.
said, I think we need to get somebody. I think he would do very well behind Cole. And he is the best, the best starting pitcher left on the market. And I think leaving Severino and Montgomery in the 3 and 4 would really, as it would take the pressure off of Severino. It would also keep Montgomery comfortable because he's very comfortable in the mid to back end of the rotation. And he killed it last year. Montgomery was phenomenal. And if you can keep him feeling good about himself and not having him in the top of the rotation behind Cole, then I think he would continue to do as well as he did. And you brought up the injuries, which is funny because the first thing I thought of was, injured players turn on Cashman. He gets off on it. So, if you're injury prone, you're his guy. Yep. So Rondon just makes perfect sense.
He gets off on it. Does. It's like, right, no, don't want healthy, no. Injured, long-term injury. That's my boy. Get it done. Quick, call his agent before he signs elsewhere.
Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up with when we were talking about Judge, and I saved it for this discussion.
I wanted to pick up on. Is Rob Brantley the best catcher that you could find in free agency to back up Gary Sanchez? Now, I kept that quiet, but just look at his numbers, man. I mean,
it was a name that we
didn't play in 2020. He had 3 at-bats in 2020 for San Francisco, batting average is 0. He had 1 at-bat for Philly in 19, batting average 0. And for the Yankees, he had a 150 batting average. In fact, his career home runs is like 7. So surely there has to be better catchers on the market. And is it not better just to not have any at all than bring back Brantley, considering he was not any good for us? That's why we didn't bring him back. If he was any good, the Yankees would have tried to re-sign him. We let him go.
That's a good point. Yeah, it was the familiar name. We've already taken a gamble on him. Take a second one, But no, there's plenty of options for a third catcher. Austin Wells could be the third catcher for all I care. But catching depth, I think, is important.
No, it is. I would have gone the option where, listen, I want Gary Sanchez gone. And if there was a free agent, like even an Austin Romine would have been better than Rob Brantley. But there isn't really one on the market, I think. So I would have just probably gone the trade route than make Rob Brantley your number 1 choice.
Yeah, where did I have him on?
You're number 1.
No. His WAR, everybody's WAR was pretty much the same, except for Manny Pena, but he already signed.
The catching list is very, very thin.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already lost our opportunity to get guys like Barnhart was available for trade. Tigers got him for nothing. So, anybody that we could have got that would have improved our catching situation is basically off the list. I think Maldonado might have signed already, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So
Manny Pena, Yan Gomes, Pedro Severino, Roberto Perez, they all signed already. Sandy Leon is already signed.
They could go trade route if they go to improve catcher. It's going to be in a trade. Maybe a dude from the Cubs, but I don't know if the Cubs will be willing to move players now because it seems like they're going for it, or at least not going to rebuild. But they've made some moves that tell you that they want to compete this year.
Yeah.
So.
But one of the other things I noticed when looking at the free agents is a lot of them are in their 30s. Whether they're 30, 31, 32. There's a handful of them that were in their late 20s. This is something that baseball really needs to address, is how, a lot of teams want to go younger, and by the time players are reaching free agency, there's less of a desire for them because of their age. They already have somebody else they have in mind that they want to bring up. Does this really need to be a focal point in these negotiations about that the arbitration process is too long?
It's stupid. It's very stupid is what it is. Like, why is it that, when you're a first round pick of the NFL, you're playing right away. You get the 5 years and then you hit free agency. So you're like 27, 28, whatever you might be, maybe even younger. NBA, it's the same thing. You're going right into the fire.
Yeah.
But in the MLB, you're a first round pick. Everyone's like, oh man, this kid's going to be special 7 years down the line. It just doesn't make any sense. It's very, and I like to think that with the way the MLB has moved, like the way players, athletes are evolving every year, you see them a lot earlier than expected. So maybe it would make sense to change that whole arbitration thing. Because you still have to have minor leagues, because the difference between college ball and major league ball is drastic. Yeah. But we're seeing guys like at the age of like 21 get called up a lot more nowadays than we ever saw back in, the 90s and early 2000s. So they do have to change it, because it's not fair for these minor leaguers to be eating ramen noodles every day and not even know. Well, now they're finally getting housing, but the minor leaguers get treated like crap, even for the top guys. And then they finally, after 7 years, and they're going like, oh, I can get my $100 million contract. It's crazy how baseball works. You go from making absolutely nothing and still playing the game to making potentially 9 figures. It's insane. They do need to change it, though, because it's
yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, first of all, the service time manipulation. Now, any smart GM does it, but it's wrong. It's flat out wrong. I mean, you're looking at Vlad Guerrero. His service time was manipulated. Vlad Guerrero Jr. You're talking about Wander Franco. He was pretty much ready from the start, but they waited it out to midseason. Again, there's been service time manipulation for as long as we've known. Great players who are ready right off the bat are being kind of held in order to get them another couple of years of arbitration. I mean, you're talking about legit players who are eating cereal. You know what I mean? Coming out of AAA, who are legit. But they're eating cereal because they're not getting paid properly. You know what I mean? And that needs to stop. We're talking about Aaron Judge, who's had 2 semi-MVP seasons. And this where, Tats, you were going to bring it up. I'm pretty sure that was your point you were going to make. Aaron Judge is going into free agency on the back of 2 semi-MVP seasons, top 10 best outfielders in baseball. Without
he's going to be 31 when he reaches free agency.
And he's not been free agent. He's not a free agent at the age of 31. And so he's not even gotten his payday yet. So something has to change. That is the most important thing of the CBA. The fact that they signed off on the crazy CBA in the first place is a big L, the players' union, because it's a terrible deal for them. Why would they accept that? So it has to be amended, man. You're talking about great players whose service time is manipulated. You're not getting up in the show when they should be, and although it's good business, it's not a good.
It's also bad business.
It's good business, but it's bad optics.
Yeah.
No,
I think if they really want to make a difference and give these kids, their due, I think if you make it to, I think your clock should start after you're the 3rd year you're drafted, your clock starts.
Yeah,
I think that would be fair.
Yeah, there's too many levels though of minor league baseball, because you got to go through rookie ball and all these different leagues just before you get to Class A. Like, it's ridiculous. And then you got to go through 2 levels of A ball, and then there's AA, and then AAA. It's like, oh, now you're ready. for the major leagues. But like, it's too much. Like, that's why no one gets excited for the MLB draft. You know, in the rare occasion, a guy like Bryce Harper came up after like a couple of years after he was drafted. But, you know, I know we drafted Judge in, I think, 2013, but, you know, it still took 3 years for us to see him get called up. And even his first year in 2016, he wasn't very good. And people were like, oh, he could be a bust. And then he broke out the next year. But it's too long. You know, that's why everyone likes the NBA draft and the NFL draft. First of all, they go by quick. The MLB draft is like 30 rounds, and we don't see the guys until, you know, like 5 years.
If we ever do.
Yeah. So it's the whole process needs to be changed. But because there's so many levels to each major league roster with all the minor league teams, it's difficult to really do that because you have to fill out like 5 different rosters, and then that you want to see
So
that guy.
What about the idea of if you start the clock when you reach Double A? Like as soon as you're promoted to Double A, your clock starts.
Well, then
You know, there's got to be somewhere where it's not when they reach the MLB. They got to do something where it's earlier, and it might give these teams the push to move their talent forward, not hold them back so they have them for more years.
But that's how you manipulate that, though. Teams aren't going to move you to Double A because they know they're going to have to start paying you. That's like with the international signing. You look at how much those players make in bonus money.
But that's the BS of it.
Exactly, and then
just go play in Puerto Rico and come in through the international market. You know,
some players might start going that route. That's why you see a lot of young guys, you know, go to Japan and they go play in, you know, and I forgot what the initials are for their league, but you know what I'm saying. Like we've seen players go over there. You've seen it in basketball too. They avoid college so they can get drafted earlier. But I think more players need to look at that. They definitely need to address the system, at least with arbitration, because it's the fact that Aaron Judge, if we use him for a Yankee example, like Donald said, should have been MVP in 2017. As far as I'm concerned, he was. He put up an MVP caliber season last year. When he's healthy, he is an easy choice for top 5 player in baseball, at least offensively. And he's just now, next year when he's going to be 30, and he's going to be going into getting his first major contract. I know he's making a lot with arbitration and endorsements and all that, but like, come on. That should not be the case. Yeah. Baseball is the only league that does that crap.
I mean, to be honest, the Yankees should have signed him by now anyway. I mean, this whole idea where they don't negotiate mid-season is kind of to their detriment because other teams seem to have no problem doing it. This kind of policy is a little outdated now. I mean, they really should have, after his first MVP season. I mean, they were never going to do it because obviously it was because they were budget conscious and they're obviously manipulating the arbitration process that they didn't need to pay him to this point. But I think after his first MVP season, you'd probably be looking at getting on the table, especially anyway before last year. You would have considered a long term, but I mean, I think some of it has to go to the Yankees on that. I mean, I think you probably could have given him a contract, but they have no problem, for instance, giving Severino a 3-year deal without checking his arm history. And then they had no problem giving Aaron Hicks a massive contract of, was it 10 years at the time, despite him being injured all the time. So they easily could have negotiated a contract with Aaron Judge where this wouldn't be an issue going into the age of 31. You're thinking, well, 5 years is kind of a long time for due to his legs. And, if they'd just done it 2 years ago, then had his contract run up to the age of 35, 36, you're thinking that's a really good contract. Yep. So it is on the Yankees too. I think we could also legitimately say that. Would you say that too, or do you think that's harsh?
No, I think you're spot on. We saw it with Tatis, and they offered the deal that the Nationals offered Soto that he turned down. They want to lock these players up, and the Yankees are like, well, look at all the money we're saving. We could invest into chicken buckets.
Exactly.
it's just pointless, and all it does is aggravate the fans, and it creates tension with the players. I think it creates a lot of tension with everybody.
Yeah. To be fair, the Yankees are just following what's in the rules. They don't have to re-sign him.
Yeah.
They had him under contract. So, but yeah, they should have had him locked up a long time ago. But I think it's very telling that Soto turned down that kind of a contract, because that tells me he's like, I'm going to get more. He's going to get a lot more in free agency. When he hits it, like another 3 years, whatever it is, he's going to get, he could get $500 million. If he's turning down 350 or whatever it was, he could get $500 million.
Yeah, no, he's taking a big gamble on himself, and for his sake, I hope it works.
If he keeps playing the way he is, he's gonna get $500 million. Think about that for a second. That's if the Mets are paying Scherzer are $40 million a year for 2 years at his age, Soto deserves $50 million.
Hey, the Yankees could be in on him when he's a free agent in 3-4 years time.
I don't know about all that. The way they're operating, they might be like, we still got to pay. Wait,
you're asking 50? We'll give you 20.
I'm giving far too much credit to Hal. Yeah. Sorry, it's stupid.
All right. Well, let us know what you think about the arbitration process. Who do you think would be a good free agent to bring into the team? Who do you think had the better list? And let us know in the comments. So just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check us out on sportnarian.com/play it and on Northeast Streaming Sports on.
We can all agree that Tats had the worst list. I think
I had the worst list. I really did.
He had Rob Brantley.
The Brantley pick ruined it.
That's a disaster. The Brantley pick was right at the start too. You could have hit it if you put it at the bottom, like maybe 4 or 5. You could maybe just. But right at the start of the podcast, Rob Brantley.
I should have shuffled my list to show. Be like, well, I didn't know who I wanted to pick as my 5. So
God, people just stopped listening after you said Rob Brantley. I'm sure of it.
I'm sure everybody did.
What a fail!
Just remember, wear your pinstripe pride and play on, and stop listening to.